I thought he'd broke his leg. There was a time where I was told I might never ride him again. I was absolutely devastated. Welcome back to the channel. I've had a few questions recently about what injury my horse Willow had done, what was the recovery like, how long it took and everything. So I thought we'd go over this today. So if you're new to the channel, my horse Willow had an injury back in 2018. He'd done his suspensory ligament. We are back on board now, we're riding, everything is fine now. But people have asked about what happened. So it was back 2017, Willow was on fire. He was 5 years old back then. Absolutely, he's always been a very talented horse. So he was winning at county level. He'd won all the local shows. He'd qualified for Equefest and won all that. He was he's the most intelligent horse I have ever ridden, trained, brought on, everything. Because I broke him in myself, I did. And he's mega. So he was doing absolutely amazing. So we got to like springtime. I've written notes down here, so I will refer back to them because it was so long ago and so much went on. It was not a straightforward recovery that I've had to write notes down so I don't forget everything. So yeah, it was early 2018, April, May time, and we had gone out hacking one day. My kids were at school. Steve was off of work, so he came out hacking with us. We just go round our local cross-country course. Nothing out of the ordinary. I don't feel that he slipped, tripped, nothing. Just a normal hack. No reason to think that my whole life was going to change that day, or his whole life. So it had been raining a little bit, and I remember that I put him in the stable after hacking him out. He's not a lover of the rain. He doesn't like he's a bit of a pansy. He doesn't like being turned out in the rain. So come back from our hack, I'd put him in the stable and I'd gone to collect my kids from school. So we weren't gone long because we always, once I picked them up from school, went straight back down the yard to deal with horses. So just getting Willow out of his stable and absolutely disaster. I thought he had broke his leg. He was hopping lame. It was awful to see. So we rang the vet and the vet came straight out to him. And even then, the vet had an idea on what injury he had done, but we had to scan him to make sure, and where the leg had already started swelling, couldn't be scanned until we could get the swelling under control. So the scan was booked for the following week. So at this time, we'd been given a few options of what Willow could have done to his leg, but no definitive answer. So we were just left with the instruction to ice his leg as much as possible. So yeah, he had to have his leg iced 3 times a day and be on box rest. I don't have ice boots and the hose is just not cold enough for what we needed it to do. So what I done is got these ice cube bags. You fill them up. I haven't got one ready, but these are in the drawer, always ready for any injury from the horses now. So you fill it up with water, little squares of ice cubes, but then you can bend it round the leg and then put a schooling wrap or something around it to hold it on. So that's how we iced his leg for the week, and he was kept in the stable, not allowed out of the stable even to be mucked out. And if you've seen one of my previous videos, The Truth About Willow, he is not the nicest horse in his stable. He is very stable proud. He will barge you around. He will threaten to kick. So it was a very hard time to have him in the stable continuously whilst you're mucking out, but we had to push through it and deal with it. So the way we done it, we just put a head collar on him, held him in the stable whilst I mucked out one side, and then sort of moved him over that side whilst I mucked out the other side to try and do it as safely as we can. So then the next week we had to take him to the vets for the scan, because at my yard I don't have any electric. We've only got the generator, and that is not powerful enough to do the scan equipment that the vet's got. Luckily, my vet surgery was a 5-minute drive down the same road that I'm on. So it was just a straight road, 5 minutes, and then we were at the vet surgery. So they had to shave his leg to do the scan, and there we found out that he had actually put a hole in his suspensory ligament branch. So I'll put a picture up here. The suspensory ligament runs down the back of his leg and then branches off into a V around either side of his foot, basically. And what he'd done is put a hole in the suspensory branch. The vet did say it was not as bad an injury as they thought it was. The way Willow was extremely lame, he thought he would have found more of an injury than he actually did. So what that just tells us, yes, Willow's done a nasty injury, but his pain threshold is really quite low. He would have been in pain, but shouldn't have been showing as much pain as he was for the injury he'd done, basically. So we put him back on the box, got him home. He had to be re-scanned again 6 weeks later, and we were still having to do the ice 3 times a day to try and bring the swelling down. I'd spoke to my friend by now. I've been friends with my friend for years, absolute years, but she was actually training to be a physio. So she told me to buy some magnetic boots to try and, I'm not exactly sure how they work. The ice restricts the blood flow to get the swelling down, and then the magnetic boots increase the blood flow to help healing process. So we got some magnetic boots and we were to use them as well and reduce the icing, because after a certain amount of time the icing isn't as beneficial as it was at the beginning of the injury. So we were putting the magnetic boots on him. You have to start at a little amount of time first and build it up. So he was having them on. I also got him infrared boots as well, which is like a hot water bottle. So it just takes away any aches, really. I have wrapped them around my arm to see whether I can feel anything. I can't feel the benefits. I don't know. But I bought whatever I was told to buy to help with the recovery. And I still do use magnetic boots on Willow now. Once we've worked him, especially in the winter when it's been cold, ground is hard, I just put the boots on just for my peace of mind, in the hope that it does do something. So yeah, we were reducing the icing and we were putting the magnetic boots on him. And by this time, he was allowed to come out of the stable, be tied up, to be mucked out, but he was still on box rest. So we done this for a couple of weeks. He had to be sound before we could do anything with him. So it took a couple of weeks for him to be completely sound in walk so that he could come out and start hand walking. So we started just hand walking like 5-10 minutes a day, just so he could come out the stable and graze basically down my trackway and see something other than the stable walls. So when it come time to rescan him, it'd been 6 weeks, we took him over to the vets again to be rescanned, and the vet found nothing. His hole had basically repaired itself. Still a long journey to go, but he said that whatever we were doing was working absolutely perfect and we could start turnout. Every vet will have a different way of doing things. Every physio will have a different way of doing things. So no one's story is exactly going to be the same. This is just my experience, my story on how we done this. So the vet said we could start turnout. So having been in the stable for so long, it was always going to be risky anyway. So he gave us some oral sedative so that we could sedate Willow a little bit, turn him out in the paddock for it started off like half an hour and then an hour, building it up slowly. But we had to sedate him every day to go out and not charge about and cause injury to himself. But he wanted him, in the end, to be turned out 24/7 for a bit. Let him rest and recover, basically. So we done this. We were sedating him every couple of days. We could reduce the sedative a bit more. So he would eventually turn out unsedated. So we'd started doing this. We'd fenced off. Back then, we didn't have the bark chip arena, so that is where we turned him out. It was grass back then, but we'd fenced some off, so we didn't have the whole field to run around. So it was fine. I don't know, I think it must have been about 2-3 weeks. We'd got to the point where he was going out not sedated, and it was absolutely fine, building up time. But Willow is extremely sensitive to noise. Something happened one day that spooked him and he went charging around the field. And when I finally got hold of him again, his leg was swollen again. So we brought him back in, started icing him again. I've got hold of the vet who basically said that he's done the injury again, so he's done the suspensory for a second time. And this is when I was told I might never ride Willow again. He might never come sound because of having done it a second time. So we were back to the whole beginning again, icing his leg, full box rest, couldn't come out, let him get sound again, and then we could bring him out. And I was so worried that I'd lost the chance to ever ride him again. If I never rode him again, I'd been fine, but I wanted him to be sound enough at least to not be in pain and be a pampered pet. I'd have been happy with that as long as he was sound and fine. So I'd put something on Facebook about the second injury, and this is when my friend got hold of me again. She was trained by this time now, and was a physio, and she was like, right, we need to make more of a plan for him to come back better than ever and not have this be the end of his journey, basically. So we waited for the swelling to go down, got the ice on him, and then we started ultrasound sessions. She explained it all. I trust her judgment completely because, as I say, I've been friends with her for years. I just never knew this was her thing. So she come down, she's done the ultrasounds. It doesn't take long, 5-10 minutes, scanning on his leg, and that's it, the session done. I think we've done 9 or 10 sessions altogether. It starts out like the first week you do 3 sessions, second week you do 2 sessions, and it gradually goes down. You have a break in between, then they come back and do another session, if I remember rightly. So we were doing that to try and aid recovery of him. And then he was on restricted turnout and hand walking. But the restricted turnout she had us do, we basically started with a field the size of his stable. So he could go out and eat the grass and wander around like he was in the stable, but he couldn't do anything to pick up speed and risk injuring himself again. Every week we could increase his field, a little bit at a time. And then we were doing in-hand walking. Started off 5 minutes every day. I think it was twice a day, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was twice a day. So 5 minutes twice a day. Next week we do 10 minutes, the week after 15 minutes, building it up extremely slowly. But again, we built it up quite a bit, but as I said before, Willow is not the best horse on the ground. On the ground, he can, back then, of course he was worse then than he is now, his behaviour is atrocious. So back then, we were walking him, I was doing everything I could, but as I'm walking him, he will physically turn around and bite me and barge me and push me, and he, on the ground, disgusting. His behaviour was disgusting. So we resorted to long reining him for his hand walk, only at walk, but then he's in front of me. He can't bite me, but I've still got full control of him. I can keep him in walk just without being anywhere near his head. So that's what we done. We started long reining him and building up the time. So that then brings us to around September time. So we done this, April? So it took us 5-6 months to get to this point. So we built him up to an hour's worth of hand walking, restricted grazing and everything. The grazing had built up over time as well. But the in-hand walking, we'd got to an hour, and during this time, the physio kept coming back out and checking him and everything, seeing what we're doing. But she came back out September time of 2019 and said the words I'd never thought I'd hear her say again. She said it was time to get back on board. So we got back on board, back to walking only. Again, we had to reduce the time he was walking because he now had my weight on his back as well. So in a way, we're going backwards, reducing the time of the walks, but it was the next stage. I was on board. So we were just walking every single day, walking on his back now. So it just felt like we'd hit such a milestone. So we'd done that, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks of just walking with me on board. And then I don't have a school, of course. Back then I didn't have the Barchip arena, so we used to take him up to higher arenas when the physio came out and wanted to watch us doing stuff. So it got to November time of 2019 where we could start trotting under saddle, and we just took it steady because at the beginning he was just so weak. He hadn't been able to trot for ages, so he was so weak. So we took it nice and steady, short bursts of trot. And as I say, he was being worked 7 days a week now, just to keep on at it. Of course, only walking and trotting, didn't do much at all, but it had to be every day to aid his rehab. So we done that for a while and everything was fine. And then I had to get hold of the physio because he was so full of energy. He kept trying to canter off with me, and that's fine. I can handle that as a rider, but I didn't want him to injure himself. So in December, she come out to see us again, and she said it was time to start cantering him and having my horse back. I didn't think we'd get to this point. It was such a magical moment to have him back, walk, trot and cantering. Of course, it was not pretty at all. And the first few times we cantered, it was explosive. But as she said, he felt good, because if it was going to hurt him, he wouldn't be doing that. So spent a lot of time building him back up and doing really well. Of course, winter again, so I was putting the magnetic boots on him just every night. So I was so cautious in what we were doing. I didn't want him to have hurt himself whilst I was riding. So we were just being so cautious. And she kept in contact with us. She's always been on the end of the phone every time I've got a little niggle about everything. So early the following year, I think it was February time of 2020, she come out to see us and going really well, doing everything. He could have started the schooling and everything. So it must have been late February time, 2020, I booked him into his first show. Just a little local show, nothing spectacular, but just so we could get out and about again. And he loves the show ring, he loves the atmosphere and everything. So we've just got him, booked him out to a show, took him there, done fabulous, done really well. And then suddenly everything got hit by COVID, didn't it? And everything shut down. So we didn't go to shows again for ages, and now he was up and riding. We could reduce that he wasn't working 7 days a week by then, so he was allowed to do more within each ride, less times a week basically. So the only things that he cannot do, he was at the beginning, it was no trot poles at all, nothing like that, because if he stepped on a trot pole and it rolled backwards, you risk the injury again. So couldn't do trot poles, and I'm not a lover of jumping anyway, and my physio knew that, so she was like, no jumping, because it puts pressure on their back legs as they go up and over the jump. So we just didn't want to risk him doing that again. So pole work and jumping was out of the question. But of course, COVID hit now, we couldn't go out and do stuff, so we couldn't even go hacking to begin with, where we usually go the hacking. So his exercise quietened down really considerably, And he basically had a break, a holiday. We let him just recover mentally. He was now fixed, his leg, but we just let him recover mentally for a bit. Whilst COVID was going on, we were working, me and Steve were working a hell of a lot more through that time. So, of course, once COVID come about, we could then start building him back up to where we are now. But of course, it's 2024 now. COVID's been gone a while, but I've been so scared of him getting the injury again. And of course, I've got no physio and vets telling me a plan to do each week now. Of course, I can get hold of my physio whenever I want and she'll make me a plan. But I've not pushed him now as much as I actually could. So we're not actually working now at the level we were when he was in the last stages of his rehab, because I've just been so cautious. I've been too worried about him hurting himself again. So I have spoke to the physio again. She has said that his leg is completely healed. I need to get out of my head now and enjoy him and have fun and bring him back to the level that he once was. We were, like back in the summer, allowed to start back doing trot poles with him to try and build him up now, build his back and his top line and everything. So we're allowed to do trot poles again. And we can now still jump, but not jump. I can't jump anyway. 50 centimetres is, I think that's my limit anyway. I'm not a lover of jumping, but it will help him now build his top line and everything. I put some canter poles out the other day, just raised canter poles, and he was leaping them. It really sort of livened him up again. So I don't think we will ever jump anything. I will never do a cross country jump. I'm too scared that with him, because I'm too scared. It's a solid jump, and if he hits his leg, falls over, that's not for me. But will I take him over a small show jump now? Possibly, but nothing of height, because I don't want him to do the push over the jump. It'll be just something small that he could canter over, but I think it will just liven him up a little bit. But yes, the plan to get him working all winter now, harder to get him ready for next year. I've been told to go out and enjoy him now and stop thinking that he's got this injury, because it is healed. It's taken a year in time from when he done it to heal properly, but he is now healed fine. I need to stop hanging on to he's done the suspensory, and I need to treat him like I would any other horse now, and really push on and achieve my dreams. So that's the story on what injury Willow done. As I say, it took us nearly a year of rehab to get him back riding. And then we lost it all because of COVID. But now I do need to push on and really get him out ready to smash 2025. So if you want to follow along with our journey, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.